So I did a training the other day with my group of agents about accidental death benefit coverage and why I don't like selling it as a final expense agent. So what I'm going to do in this video is explain why that's the case and what you should watch out for if you're selling it, but also what you should watch out for if you're not, as far as possible opportunities to make more sales. My name is David Duford, owner of Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare, and annuities, either face-to-face or over the phone. So as I was saying, I don't like to sell accidental death benefit coverage as a final expense producer. And what I'm going to do to try to explain why is give you some firsthand experience with my clients, with reviewing accidental death and dismemberment policies, and kind of showing what I think are the weaknesses of these plans and how to exploit those weaknesses as an agent when you run across these particular policies in the field. So a lot of agencies teach their agents to add on some additional accidental death benefit coverage because it's cheap. It's a way to inflate the size of the policy and give a larger perceived value. There's something about saying, hey, you got $40,000 in accidental coverage on a $20,000 natural death benefit policy that seems to like sell the sizzle, at least in some people's eyes. The problem is that the agencies that teach this strategy don't ever provide context to what the agents are actually selling. So if someone like myself or now you run across an accidental death plan, it's likely you're able to deconstruct it and get that policy replaced for something better. So why don't I like accidental plans? Why don't I actually recommend selling them? Well, here's why. So I had a client, and a lot of these plans, so you know, are accidental death and dismemberment plans. All right, keyword, dismemberment. I had a client that told me a story that he was painting his house, fell 20 feet, landed directly on his heel with his leg locked out and like smashed every part of his bone beneath his knee. He had a bunch of surgeries, tried to reconstruct a leg. 100 days later, he said, to hell with it, cut the thing off, I'm gonna go stub leg, right? And he remembered he had an accidental death and dismemberment plan that gave a benefit in case of a dismemberment, in this case his leg. So he called in to collect on the claim, but the insurance company said, sorry, we can't actually process your claim. And he said, why? You know, I dismembered my leg. Where's my money? And what the company said in reply to that is, well, if you look at the policy and you see the stipulations, you have to have that dismemberment, that accident has to occur within a 90-day purview time from the date of the accident. So the little gotcha clause in there was the fact that it occurred outside of that 90-day window, there was no claim to be made. So why does this matter? Well, here's the other thing too. Well, first of all, why does this matter? First of all, it pisses people off because this guy did everything he could to save his leg. He didn't want it dismembered, but there was no other way because it just wasn't getting better. And he felt like it came from an accident and it just was an arbitrary, fell out of that 90-day purview. This is going to make a lot of people mad when you explain this to them because there is an underlying current with most people that insurance can be a ripoff, okay? And if you start telling people about the probable ripoffs, it's going to lay question to the existing accidental death and dismemberment plan that they may have that you as an agent may have just sold because you're taught that way and you never were taught any context, right? So the other thing too, a lot of these accidental plans is that there's going to be denials of claims based off of the probable accident as actually being something caused from a natural death. So again, another example. So I'm looking out the window. I didn't actually see this, but there's a dude that would walk in our neighborhood every day with a little tiny dog. And you could see the older guy walking. He's very stiff. He looked like he was going to fall at any moment. And it's just like, why is he doing this, you know? So we found out he had Parkinson's, right? So one day, I had heard from my wife. He was walking down our road, and there's a big dog next to us, a big standard poodle, all right? You know, just a dog that just needs to be ran, high energy. The dog runs out of the yard, okay, and runs up to the little dog and starts barking at it. The man gets flustered, loses control, falls over, smacks his head right on the pavement, blood everywhere, right? Has a hemorrhage in his brain. 2 weeks later, he dies, right? He's dead. Now, the question I have, and I don't know what happened with this particular guy, but the question I would have is this. Was he killed by an accident? Did he trip and fall? Technically, he did. However, was it the Parkinson's that contributed towards his death? Because of his advanced Parkinson's and his proprioception and ability to balance was gone. Was it actually was it caused by a natural cause of death? And my experience is that insurance claims will allege that. if there's a reason why that something might be caused by a natural death. So think about the clients that we sell in the context for final expense. A lot of them have pre-existing health issues, right? What if they develop Parkinson's? What if they develop Alzheimer's and they fall down the stairs? Or they become infirm because of a natural death and they hit their head and die from it? Is it an accident? On the surface it is, but was it precipitated by a natural death? My concern and my fear that I tell my clients is these insurance companies will find a way to possibly deny the claim if, and it's legit, a natural cause of death was involved, and they won't pay the accidental. So this usually gets people really upset. And then again, what happens is because the agent went in there and sold a natural death policy with accidental coverage, the price has been inflated. Now that I've dismantled that this policy is not that good, now it's easier for me to replace it and offer them a couple thousand more natural death coverage, assuming it makes sense, of course, to maximize their coverage of natural death, which they absolutely will receive. Makes sense? So I think what you're doing is if you don't set up the sale right, and again, I've never seen it really set up correctly where accidental is a big deal, you will get replaced more often. You'll have more chargebacks and you'll run into more problems. So what reasons would you sell accidental death? Again, I talked to an agent of mine, Jeffrey. He had a client whose husband had died in a car wreck. She was a believer in accidental death coverage. Those are instances where you'd want to sell it. They've witnessed accidental deaths. It's an emotional thing for them. Sell what they want, ultimately. And that's kind of what you want. If somebody wants accidental death coverage, let them know what the pros and the cons are. And if they want it, sell it to them, okay? But in most cases, the flaw in the sales strategy is to presume closing on accidental coverage when the client doesn't really recognize the details of it. And if you're not careful, you're going to be replaced. So that's why I don't teach agents to sell accidental death and dismemberment coverage. I just don't think it's efficient. I think it's a way to inflate your prices to make it more easier to be replaced. And I don't think it really does a really good job, personally, considering that a lot of these accidents in advanced ages are actual outcomes of progressions of natural diseases. So if you're interested in selling final expense, you want to learn great training like this in more detail. We do trainings like this all the time for my agents. You can go to daviddufour.com/FAQ to learn more about my agency to see if it's a good fit. And if you got any comments, criticisms, or questions, I welcome you to leave them below. I'll be personally happy to respond to each one individually. In the meantime, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.